Anyone can start homesteading no matter where you are, no matter where you're living, no matter what type of place you're living in. Just start now. I've spent the last 4 years learning every possible skill imaginable while I live in an urban home on 0.34 acres, my 5 children. But basically, I'll be ready for that day when my land comes in. And you can too. Let me show you how. So for 4 years, I have been striving to learn as much as possible, from gardening to food preservation to raising chickens and goats and everything like that, all while living in an urban home on 0.34 acres. If I can do it, so can you. And I'm just preparing for the day when I actually have some land. When you consider homesteading, it can seem overwhelming. You just kind of have to take small bites and learn things as you go. You might try something and love it. Might try something and absolutely think, what was I thinking? I don't ever want to do this again. You have to start learning. You have to start from scratch. Don't let the amount of stuff out there that's considered homesteading keep you from starting where you're at. Like I said, I'm in an urban home, and I would consider myself homesteading because we do as much self-sustainable things as possible for what we have, and we try to learn skills while we're here. So for example, I have my garden. It's about 2,000 square feet. We do a lot of food preservation, but things that I cannot grow for myself in bulk especially would be fruits like apples, peaches, pears, the citruses like, the oranges, lemons. I do have apple trees, I have plum trees, I do have lemon and orange. However, they are very small. They've only been, I think two seasons now planted here. So while we've gotten a handful of things off of there, we have not gotten nearly enough to preserve. So it's been more of a snacking thing. So for instances like that, you can go out and, link arms with farmers, or you can buy from places like Azure Standard and buy in bulk there. I'm sure there's other co-ops maybe in your area, or even bulk buying places like Costco. So I definitely recommend starting with a garden of any size, whether you're an apartment, condo, or have a house with any amount of land. You can start as small as a little herb garden on your windowsill. You can have a green stock on your patio in an apartment. They even have I believe they have indoor ones of something like this, not green stock, but something like those that you can do indoors if you have a really cold climate. But basically start somewhere. Start small if you've never gardened before. Don't do what I do and go big or go home. It's a learning curve, and you end up wasting a lot of money when you make all your big mistakes. And you will make mistakes. Mistakes are part of learning. We all do it. We have to learn. We have to even invent new things. We have to make mistakes. So don't let that stop you. Smart pots in varying sizes, which are cloth bags that are very, very versatile. I use them about how nice they are. You can move them around, especially when you're just starting out. You may not quite understand the lighting from the sun, south facing versus north facing, east, west, what's important for what plants, how much sun you get during the day, whether it be summer, spring, fall, or winter. Today's the last day of 2023, and I'm standing out here. I probably don't even need this jacket in Northern California. I still have a lot of stuff growing. I have my peas. I have the peas. I have the brassicas. I have kale. I don't even think we've had a freeze yet. So I believe my peppers are still going. My basil is still going. It is not dead yet. That is amazing. It is an El Nino year. There we go. Something to start doing that you can do in your kitchen again is composting. Take all of those scraps. Do not throw it away. The less waste you have, the better. Start a little. You can do they have these little, even like kitchen composters, or you can have the tumblers in your backyard. You can buy fencing and create a little fence and like a 3-tiered system, or just something so you're not wasting. To me, homesteading is being as self-sustainable as possible, producing as much as possible, not just being a consumer and not being as wasteful, repurposing things, trying to use every last bit of things. So if you're gonna have chicken, you use a whole chicken and then you take the carcass and you make bone broth from it. And then after that you can even give it to your chickens if you have them, because they will eat the rest of the stuff off the bones. It's just about making sure you're getting as much out of what you have as possible. So you don't have to have a whole bunch of land. You can be an apartment to start living that lifestyle. And then when your land comes in, you will be ready. You'll be a lot more prepared than if you went from an apartment to land right away. I really think that is going to be the most beneficial for anybody. That way you're not biting off more than you can chew. You'll actually have a better understanding of what you want and what you need by having already made those mistakes and starting small. What animals can you have where you're at? Can you have chickens? Do you have an HOA that says no? I've heard that even if you have an HOA that says no to chickens, you can actually do bees because they are protected. I think that was in a podcast I was listening to. So that would be something to look into, because if you have enough space to have 1 or 2 hives of bees, that would be amazing to have your own honey. But there are things you can do. And if you can't have chickens or bees, can you do rabbits? Can you do quails? They have a really small footprint and they have great protein. It's another thing that you can do. There's always something while you are waiting for your land to come in that you can be doing. You can be learning. So you're going to want to set goals for yourself. You're going to want to set like a 1-year goal. Like, what do you want to learn in this first year? What do you want to learn by the 2nd year, by the 5th year, by the 10th year? Where do you want to be? Set those goals and prioritize those goals by whether you have the budget for it, when you think you'll have the budget for it, and the time. Because all education, it always takes time. It's not something you can just learn instantaneously. No matter how much you read, you still have to practice it. There is a difference between reading and practicing. It's the same thing with nursing. When you're going to nursing school, there's a difference between book work and clinicals as a nurse. You have to practice what you've read. IVs, blood draws, vitals, all of that stuff. And then you still have real life learning when you actually have passed your exam and you're working in a hospital or bedside or wherever you're at. You have to practice those skills. You have to hone in on those skills, and that takes time. Start now, start small, start wherever you can. So set your goals. My goal, hopefully within the next year, is to have a farm, wherever that may be, but it may be more like 2 years. We're trying to move towards it as much as possible, but life happens. Things happen. We keep adding children. Don't let having children stop you either, because there's never going to be a better time to start than now, and bring them alongside you. Bring them alongside you to learn. My kids love being in the garden with me. They love being in the kitchen with me. They do herbalism with me, just different things, and I'm praying that it sticks with them for their lifetime. So some of the things that you can start doing to educate yourself to see where you want to start is things like this, going on and finding videos, listening to podcasts. It's what I did several years ago. Still do today when I need inspiration or have a late night with the baby. Books. There's so many books out there. I do have a blog that I'm starting a series on in January. I think I've actually already posted one the end of December about best herbs for, and the one I just posted was for anxiety while breastfeeding. Plans to do things like best herbs for anemia, lymphatic system, bronchitis, things like that. I'm going to be going over in detail. So make sure to check out my blog and subscribe so you guys know when those drop. So learning to preserve food, you don't have to grow it yourself. Like I said before, you can buy in bulk from local farmers. You can order from Azure Standard online and pick it up in one of their monthly drops. Dehydrating is fairly simple. They do have a lot of different types of dehydrators, so you can get like the inexpensive ones to start, or you can get the big, ginormous, regulated, expensive ones if you really think it's something you're going to want to continue on with. There is freeze drying. It's a big upfront cost. I don't personally have it yet, but it is in our goals to do that because of the longevity of keeping that food once you freeze dry it. Then there's, of course, just regular freezer. You can freeze foods, but that is space consuming. So unless you have a lot of room and a lot of freezer space, You also have to consider when electricity goes out, if it does go out in your area for storms, or, in California we have brownouts for when it gets too hot. They turn our electricity off. Other things like canning, you have water bath canning, you have pressure canning. Those are more shelf-stable foods, and that's my preferable way of doing it. You get to geek out on chemistry when you learn it. And being a nurse, that's my forte. Start learning pasta sauces, start learning applesauce, start learning jams, jellies, preserves, start learning all of those things. Learn how to do the regular jams and jellies with all the sugar, and then learn how to use Pomona's pectin that cuts down on the sugar, and see which way you like best. See which is more sustainable for you. There's so many different things that you can start learning with food preservation. Meat. Learn how to cure meat. Learn how to can meat. Make it shelf stable so it's not just in the freezer, and you have quick meals for the week. If you get really busy, you can just go and dump some soup. You can dump some ingredients together and make soup. You can dump some ingredients like ground beef and make some tacos. You can do so much stuff when you have things ready, and it sets you up to succeed. It does not set you up to fail as easy. So food preservation, and that can be your first thing. You don't have to start with the garden. I highly recommend it in any way, shape, or form that you can. But if you can't, if it's not something you're interested in, start with food preservation. We all need to eat. That could be a very good skill for you to learn and to teach your children. Do you have land already and you're going to want animals? You need to consider fencing, vet bills. What are you going to do? If you're wanting a dairy animal, do you have room for a cow? Do you want a cow? Do you want goats? What kind of goats? Do you want the little Nigerians that we had, which I absolutely love those? Or do you want the bigger Nubians? You'll get more milk, but I don't think that their milk lasts as long or tastes quite as good as the Nigerians. It all comes down to preferences and getting out there and learning. If you are going to have chickens, what's your goals with the chickens? Do you just want egg laying? Do you want to have meat birds, so you only have them for a short amount of time and then you butcher them and store them, whether you can them or freeze them? Or are you going to want a versatile breed? You need to start looking into those types of things, like what is most appealing to you. If meat birds are not appealing to you at all at this point, then yeah, definitely start with the egg laying and look into the different breeds, look into your area. Some don't tolerate heat very well. That's one of the things I have to look at when I'm looking at birds. There's so much to learn and so much information out there. That's where the goal setting comes in. What do you want to start with? What is something that you can start with now and build upon later? For us, we started with a garden and then went into chickens, and then everything else just exploded. The more I got into gardening, the more I needed to learn how to utilize the food that I was growing, because a lot of it either went bad or it went to family and friends who actually knew how to use it, because I still didn't know how to cook. So with gardening, you're going to be learning how to cook with that, how to make food from scratch. It's not just going to be dump and goes unless you're doing the canning with it. Then it can still be dump and go. A lot more healthy version of that. But it basically comes down to start. Get going. Just something you're never going to look back and go, oh, I started with the wrong thing. I can't imagine you're going to do that, because you're going to get up, you're going to look, and you're going to find something that's going to interest you so much that you're just going to want to keep diving deeper and deeper into it. That's what happened with me. Gardening, I mean, my garden has, I think it's grown tenfold, and I still grow way too much. I'm giving away lots of food. It may be difficult when it comes time to cull and butcher. We've become very detached from our food system. We don't generally think of the living conditions that our animals that we consume have been living in. But when you consider how you're raising your animals, or going to be planning to raise your animals, probably not going to be in a warehouse butt to butt with other animals or in little cages. Think of how you're going to raise your animals. Just know that they're going to have a better life, however short it may be, before you butcher or cull them. And that, that's how it's supposed to be. In my opinion, it's supposed to be, we're supposed to take care of and cherish and be thankful for what we consume. And while it's nice and convenient, and there are benefits to having the grocery store, obviously, that has taken that part out of our food. Our food system doesn't give us that perspective anymore. That's one of the reasons I'm striving for raising my own animals. It's not going to be easy when it comes time to butcher them, but say a prayer, be thankful, utilize every part, because by then you'll have the education and the skills to do so without being wasteful. If you're just waiting until your land comes in, don't do that. Just stop, get up, and start now, and see where it takes you. It may completely change your outlook, and you may even want something completely different than you had been envisioning. And don't you think you'd rather figure that out now before you sink in a bunch of money on relocation and just whatever you were thinking? So just get up, get going, start learning, and have fun with it.